Welcome back, everyone. We're doing a deep dive today, focusing on a presentation from a Friday SLO Talks webinar.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a series, for those of you who might not know, for higher education professionals, put on by COACHES, which is the California Outcomes Assessment Coordinators Hub.
Coaches, they do great work.
They do. We're looking at a presentation by Dr. Curt Bonk.
Okay.
He's from the Instructional Systems Technology Department at Indiana University, Bloomington.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he describes himself as a former accountant turned distance learning enthusiast.
Interesting combination.
Yeah. But it makes sense when you hear him talk because he is all about practical application.
Uh-huh.
And he really digs into the numbers. And the numbers he shares about AI adoption are pretty mind-blowing, actually.
Oh, really? Like what?
Well, recent studies show that AI used by college students has just exploded, going from 49% in 2023
Wow.
to 86% just a year later.
That's such a fast jump.
Right. It's a huge increase in such a short amount of time.
That really shows how much things are changing.
It does, and I think it signifies a fundamental shift in how students are approaching learning.
It definitely seems like it.
And, there's all this fear around AI and people using it to cheat. But the research actually suggests that students are using it for legitimate learning activities.
Really? So they're not just like writing their essays with it.
That's what I was thinking.
Right.
But actually, multiple studies, including some of Dr. Bonk's own research, highlight that students are primarily using AI for things like research, grammar checks,
Okay.
summarizing documents, and brainstorming ideas.
That makes sense,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
Those are all things AI can be helpful for as long as, it's used ethically.
Right, and that's the key.
Yeah.
Dr. Bonk even said that even when he encouraged students to use AI for assignments, a lot of them were hesitant to write entire papers with it
Interesting.
because they were afraid of being accused of academic dishonesty.
I see. So they are aware of the ethical implications.
Yeah, and it brings up a big question, I think, for educators. How do we adapt to these powerful AI tools while upholding academic integrity?
That is the question, isn't it?
It is.
How do we embrace this new technology without compromising on those core academic values?
Right, and Dr. Bonk, being as practical as he is, has actually developed a couple of models to help us think through that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so the first one is called the tech variety model.
Tech variety model. Okay.
Yeah, it's basically, he uses 10 psychological principles for motivating learners.
10.
I know, it sounds like a lot.
Yeah.
But think of it more as a toolkit, not like you have to use all 10 at once.
Okay, that makes sense.
But just having those different options in mind when you're thinking about engaging students with technology.
I like that.
It's about, sparking their curiosity, encouraging them to produce tangible results.
Tangible results. Yeah, I like that.
So it's not just technology for technology's sake.
Right. It has to have a purpose.
Exactly. And one of the principles, just to give you a taste,
Okay.
is about creating a positive learning environment.
Okay. Yeah.
And Dr. Bonk suggests, simple things like incorporating humor into your lessons or celebrating even small student successes.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So it's creating that supportive atmosphere.
Yeah, that can make a big difference,
Yep.
especially when it comes to something new like AI,
Right.
which can feel intimidating, I imagine, for some students.
It can, and for teachers too.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So the second model he talks about is the R2D2 model.
R2D2.
Yeah, like the Star Wars robot.
Cute.
Yeah. And this is where things get really interesting, I think, because it's all about creating a learning cycle.
A cycle. Okay.
Yeah. So imagine, first you read some material,
Okay.
then you reflect on what it means,
Got it.
then you display your understanding in some way,
Uh-huh.
and then you do something with that knowledge.
Oh, okay.
So that's the R2D2 model. Read, reflect, display, do.
Okay, so it's a continuous loop. You're constantly engaging with the material, not just passively absorbing it.
Right. It's a much more active way of learning.
I like that.
And the question then becomes, okay, how do we actually do this in a classroom setting?
Right. How do you put it into practice?
And Dr. Bonk has a ton of creative examples.
Oh, great.
One that I thought was really clever was using AI to generate discussion prompts or icebreakers
Oh, that's interesting.
at the start of a class.
Instead of the teacher having to, come up with them on their own
Yeah.
or, pull from the same old list,
Exactly.
the AI could generate something fresh and new.
Yeah, and you could even tailor it
Oh, okay.
to, what you're talking about that day or
Right.
whatever it is.
So it's like having a digital brainstorming partner.
Yeah, exactly. I like that.
Yeah.
And it frees up the educator to, focus on other things.
That makes sense.
And then another interesting application he talked about was using AI to create unique quizzes and exams.
Oh, interesting.
He called them ungoogleable.
Okay, so students can't just cheat.
Right.
They can't find the answers online,
Exactly.
so they have to actually learn the material.
Yeah, and I think it pushes them to think more critically, too.
Yeah, it forces them to engage more deeply with the content.
Right, because they can't just rely on those, surface-level answers that they might find online.
I wonder if it could backfire, though.
Oh, how so?
Like, could students become too reliant on AI for generating ideas?
That's a valid concern.
Yeah, it's important to use these tools thoughtfully.
Absolutely, and not let them become a crutch.
Right. It's all about finding that balance.
Exactly.
So what other applications did he talk about?
Well, one that I thought was really interesting was using AI tools like DALL-E to generate visuals.
Oh, Dilly. Okay.
Yeah, so using AI to create images.
Oh, cool.
And those images could be used to, inspire creative writing or
That's
to, spark lively innovations.
That makes sense.
Because it's one thing to talk about a concept, but
Yeah.
actually seeing a visual representation of it.
Yeah, it can make it more concrete
It's exactly.
and engaging.
Especially since DALL-E, I don't know if you've played around with it, but it can create some really bizarre
Yeah.
and surreal images.
Yeah,
So it could lead to some interesting classroom conversations, I think.
definitely.
So it seems like there are a lot of creative ways to incorporate AI into education.
There are, and we've just scratched the surface.
I know.
Dr. Bonk had so many more examples,
He did.
like using AI for debate prep,
Oh, that's right.
so students could practice their arguments by sparring with AI,
Exactly.
testing their reasoning, exploring different perspectives.
It's like having a virtual debate coach.
Exactly.
And I can see how that would be less intimidating for some students than practicing in front of their peers.
Right, it allows for more experimentation.
Yeah, more risk-taking.
Exactly.
And then he also talked about using AI to analyze its own responses for potential biases.
Oh, that's important.
Yeah, because we know that AI can reflect
Right.
and even amplify societal biases based on the data it's trained on.
Exactly. So that's something we need to be aware of.
Absolutely. And analyzing AI-generated content can be a great way to help students develop that critical eye.
That's a good point.
It pushes them to think about, where is this information coming from?
Right.
What are the algorithms?
The potential consequences.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's not just about using AI, it's about understanding its limitations as well.
Exactly. And I think that's a key point that we'll continue to explore
Yeah, definitely.
as we dive deeper into Dr. Bonk's presentation.
I'm looking forward to it.
Me, no.
Yeah.
We've covered a lot of ground already, from the rapid adoption of AI to its potential applications in the classroom.
We have.
But this is just the beginning.
It feels like the tip of the iceberg.
It does. And Dr. Bonk shared so much information, so we're just getting started.
You know, one area we haven't really touched on yet is going beyond like basic summaries with AI.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
So AI can already give you a summary,
Right.
but Dr. Bonk suggests taking it a step further.
Okay, how so?
Well, he suggests having students compare AI-generated summaries with their own,
Oh, interesting.
so they can kind of see,
Yeah, see the differences.
where they align, where they differ.
Ah.
And it helps them, identify their strengths and weaknesses in understanding and synthesizing information.
Oh, so it's a self-awareness exercise, basically.
It is. It's encouraging that metacognition.
Making them think about their own thinking.
Exactly.
That's cool.
And then he also suggests having students analyze AI-generated critiques of their work.
Oh, wow.
So instead of just getting feedback from, a teacher or a peer,
Yeah, I get a different perspective.
they get this AI perspective, and then they have to kind of grapple with that.
Oh, that's interesting.
Is this feedback valid?
Right.
Is it helpful?
Does it make sense?
Does it align with, what I'm trying to achieve?
Yeah.
And then, this one's really fun, he even talks about turning student writing into AI-narrated podcasts.
Oh, that's a great idea.
So it's like,
Bringing their work to life
creating mini audiobooks.
and tapping into the, growing popularity of podcasts.
Right, exactly.
That's so cool.
And I think that could be particularly beneficial for students who maybe struggle with reading
Oh, yeah.
or who prefer auditory learning.
Gives them a different way to access the information.
Yeah, a different way to express themselves.
Yeah, and to develop their communication skills.
Yeah, it opens up a whole new world of possibilities.
It does. And, we've talked about AI, generating discussion prompts, creating quizzes,
Right.
summarizing texts, acting as a debate coach.
Mm-hmm.
What are some other ways that AI could be used to enhance the learning experience?
Well, Dr. Bonk also highlighted using AI actors.
AI actors.
Yeah, he mentioned a platform called Synesthesia,
Ah.
and it features AI actors who can, play different roles. So
Oh,
students could interact with,
like virtual characters.
yeah, virtual characters who can provide feedback, answer
Oh, that's
questions,
cool.
even participate in like role-playing scenarios.
Wow.
So it's like having this troupe of virtual performers.
That's ready to help.
I can see how that would be really appealing to students who are, interested in gaming or virtual reality.
Oh, yeah.
It makes learning more fun.
More immersive.
Yeah.
And it taps into their interests.
Exactly.
And it creates this virtual sandbox for
Yeah.
social and emotional learning.
That's a good point.
So students can practice interacting with different personalities.
Right.
Navigating complex situations, working together to achieve a common goal.
It sounds like AI really does have the potential to revolutionize the way we learn and teach.
It does.
Wait,
But
wait,
with
wait.
any new technology, we have to be mindful of the potential downsides,
Of course.
the ethical implications.
What are some of the concerns, that you see surrounding AI in education?
Well, one concern is the potential for bias.
Right.
Remember, these AI systems are trained on massive data sets.
Yeah. And those data sets can reflect existing societal biases.
So if the data's skewed, the output's going to be skewed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And those biased results,
Could have serious consequences.
They could influence everything from student assessments
Oh, wow.
to personalized learning recommendations.
Yeah, it's a challenge.
It's a challenge we can't ignore.
Absolutely.
So what did Dr. Bonk suggest we do?
Well, what are some ways to address those concerns?
Well, he emphasized transparency,
Okay.
being open with students about how AI is being used,
Right.
giving them a voice in the process.
I like that.
And he also encouraged educators to involve students in discussions about the ethical implications of AI.
Oh, that's a great idea.
So it's not just about telling them what to think.
Right.
It's about helping them develop those critical thinking skills.
Right. Those digital literacy skills.
Exactly.
So they can be responsible and ethical citizens.
In this world where AI is becoming more and more prevalent.
Right. Exactly. It's about preparing them for the future.
It is, and it can feel a bit overwhelming, I think, with so much to learn and consider.
Oh, yeah. It's a lot.
But thankfully, there are a lot of resources out there to help educators navigate this new world of AI in education.
Oh, good. What are some examples?
Well, for language teachers,
Okay.
the International Association for Language Learning Technology offers a free online magazine
Oh, cool.
filled with practical examples of how educators are using AI for language learning.
Perfect. What about for other disciplines?
Well, there's a website called Creative Ideas to Use AI in Education,
Okay.
and it features over 100 examples across various subjects.
Wow.
And if you're looking for something more in-depth, there's a book called Teaching with Text Generation Technology,
Okay.
and it explores different pedagogical approaches.
So how to actually use it in the classroom.
Exactly.
That sounds like a great starting point.
It is, and it's encouraging to see the academic community really coming together
Yeah.
to share knowledge and best practices
Exactly.
when it comes to AI in education.
Now, Dr. Bonk also mentioned something called Notebook LM.
Oh, yes, Notebook LM.
What is that?
It's a really fascinating tool.
Okay.
Think of it as a way to create these interactive audio experiences.
Okay.
So you could take like a long article or even a book and have AI turn it into a kind of a podcast-like conversation.
Oh, wow. So instead of just reading text,
You could listen to it.
you could listen to it as a dynamic exchange of ideas.
That's incredible.
And Dr. Bonk actually used Notebook LM to create an audio version of his 4-part AI pedagogy workshop.
Oh, cool.
And he encouraged webinar attendees to try it out.
So you could really use this for, any kind of content.
Yeah. And I think it would be really beneficial for students who
Yeah.
maybe struggle with reading or prefer auditory learning.
Right, exactly.
It opens up a whole new world for them.
It does. It's a great example of how AI can personalize the learning experience,
Yeah.
making information more accessible and engaging.
Well, we've covered a wide range of topics in this deep dive, from the, incredible possibilities of AI in education to, some of the concerns.
We have. It's been a fascinating discussion.
It has.
And I think the most important takeaway for our listeners
Yeah.
is to approach AI in education with a sense of curiosity
Okay.
and a willingness to experiment.
Don't be afraid to dive in.
Exactly. Try out these tools and resources.
Yeah.
Connect with other educators who are experimenting with AI.
Right.
And most importantly, involve your students.
Yes, making a collaborative journey.
Exactly, because the future of education isn't about AI replacing teachers.
Right.
It's about teachers and students working together
Yeah?
to harness the power of AI.
To enhance learning.
Create a more engaging and equitable educational experience for everyone.
What a beautiful vision for the future of education.
It is. It is an exciting time to be in education.
It is, and we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, from the rapid rise of AI in education to its potential applications and ethical considerations.
We have.
But as you said, this is just the beginning.
It is. There's so much more to explore.
There is. It does feel like we're, at this turning point in education with all these new AI tools and resources.
It really does. Yeah, like a whole new era is beginning.
But, it's important to remember that these are just tools, right?
Oh, absolutely. They're not a magic solution to every problem in education.
Exactly. And they can't replace the human element, the role that teachers play in guiding and inspiring and supporting students.
No, not at all. That human connection is irreplaceable, I think.
Yeah, and AI can enhance the learning experience in so many ways, but it can't replace that human touch.
Right. It's all about finding the right balance, using AI to enrich and support human-centered learning, not to replace it.
And that brings us back to what Dr. Bonk was saying, that emphasis on the human element.
Yeah. Yeah, he really drove that point home throughout the presentation.
Yeah. He did. And it's a message that I think we all need to hear, especially as we get, excited about all these new technologies and possibilities.
Oh, definitely. It's easy to get swept up in the hype, but we have to remember what really matters.
Exactly. Fostering human connection, growth, empowerment.
Those are things that no AI can ever replicate.
Well said. So as we wrap up this deep dive into Dr. Bonk's presentation, what's the one key takeaway you would want our listeners to remember?
I think the most important thing is to approach AI in education with a sense of curiosity and a willingness to experiment, Don't be afraid to just dive in and see what's possible.
Yeah, try out the tools, the resources we've talked about.
Exactly, and connect with other educators who are experimenting with AI.
Share ideas, learn from each other.
Yeah, and most importantly, involve your students in this process.
Make it a collaborative journey.
Exactly, because the future of education is not about replacing teachers with AI.
It's about empowering teachers and students to work together with AI.
Yes, to create a more engaging and equitable learning experience for everyone.
That's a wonderful vision for the future of education.
It is, and I'm excited to see what the future holds.
Me too. And to our listeners out there, keep exploring, keep experimenting.
The world of AI in education is waiting for you.
And we'll be here to support you along the way.
Happy learning, everyone!